to this pretty picture. Well, fellow armchair generals, this is Gamer, who's still half asleep as he's making this video. But we are facing an invasion in the Netherlands, and we are scrambling everything we can to hold Rotterdam, because if we can hold Rotterdam, these forces do not get any supply, and I don't think they will be sending in reinforcement. Now, I have found, just before starting this, an infantry division that was hiding under this HQ. So that's coming up there. We've got a couple of divisions coming down from here that I am worried about. We're going to see with invasions by the Americans, I suspect, down there. Now, several of you were disappointed last week when I increased manpower to, I gave it a boost of 100, I believe it was. I've lost all respect for me with that. Okay. Well, I've already said clearly that I've lost. I've lost Barbarossa. Now we've sort of changed that into Drang nach Osten, the drive east, but I see the difference as a slow and steady drive to the east versus blitzing with Barbarossa. But I'm even clearly being pushed out here. So I've lost. Now, I did not get really feedback, though maybe sort of on manpower losses due to the situation of, just looking here, of these units fighting to collapse, shattering it. But since you guys want to see me continue to battle without manpower, it seems, we will do minus 100, and that'll go down to 81 manpower. So there we go, guys. We don't have that extra boost of manpower. Now let's look here at our see, this would reduce manpower down, so we don't do this. Technologies. We could boost our special purpose. We only have a couple of units of that. Armor. I think we are moving. No, just Marines. See how this goes. Here, we, for some reason, have this in the front line. Get out of the front line. You're supposed to be met. Oh, maybe I was getting you to motorize something else. That might hold. One battle of glory, which is here, which will give us time to get some of these units out. Hopefully, we've lost here. Okay. Well, you start coming up to here. It'll be a while getting across, but there's nothing. see, let's look at our supplies. Not sending any supplies there. That was because submarines were operating very heavily there. Let's, because it's important, create a supply. We're going to come origins. Oh. Right now. Okay. Useful things. Well, that supply here might just get us. Push there, that'll do okay. We've lost. Vision and we've won here. Okay, but well, as soon as you're back there, we're back. Okay, well, yeah, that was the Becker division. It's motorized and upgraded. That's still what's supposed to be retreating out once it loses enough manpower. Oh. Attack the SD types. Quit stopping. And we just had a crash. Damn. Why did we have that crash? I don't know. All that we did, since that will have to be redone. Yeah, I know, not good. You can't deal with crashes. This is not stable enough, I don't think. Though I am, of course, do realize I have a bunch of other stuff running on my system while I'm trying to do this, which does negatively affect things and stability. Okay, well, I know I did one save before starting the episode. Yeah. I don't know how important the log folder is. I could do that right now. Or properly loading in the game. That log folder. Oh, never mind. And yes, I have a few save games, but not many. Okay, well, let's make sure we do. We need to. There, that there, because we know that's going to collapse very soon. Um, yeah. Now I use the hello rack. I guess that's how you pronounce your name. What you should do is use the user dir, um, which would be better. I've posted a short tutorial video on having user directories. So instead of burying it where they want to, and users, documents, paradox, it just keeps it in the main folder, so it's easier to manage. I would recommend that. Yes, thanks, Arno. Please do give the stream a thumbs up. It does help. We would love to have more viewers here. Having in that spot. I'm gonna push into there. Unfortunately, here. Ain't gonna go well. Well, so I can move into there. Down that one. Good. I don't think I'm playing till Berlin Falls. How do I put this? Viewership is okay with this, but not great. Once I get done with all the stuff I've been helping my dad with, I'll have more time to start do some other things that I think are important. My big test has been would these guys be able to defeat the expected torch landings here? So then get viewership up. Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to pay viewers to, or pay YouTube to put thumbnails up and advertise more. I don't know. Don't know that the money's worth it. How would you guys like to see a multiplayer, Hoy? My biggest worry with that, it would be a multiplayer, would be stability issues. But how would you guys like to see a multiplayer game with like 6 players? Yeah, I'm gonna work on. Oh, we're getting to work on more social media. They're gonna get here before anybody takes us over. So let's pull you back there because you're in completely bad shape. Matter west. And hungry would like. Yes, you can have some refreshments. probably far from one here. Good. Just keep falling back to there. You're coming back down to there. Good. They're holding out a bit up there. We now have supplies, so they're going to do a little better. Cast pilot advance, very nice. And then we're going to let that continue. Because we don't have that province. Find the river there. Not to maybe save long term, but you fly supplies down to here. Oh, how you doing? How's your evening? Hopefully going better than my war here. No, you don't have any fuel. Okay, we lost. Oh. Let's move the general out. Leave some of these guys. Oh, you can fall back. I'm doing okay. It's just the war isn't doing well. Wait a minute. Oh, wait, we're not in the jungles anymore. That is sort of an interesting thing. We all know that the Germans over-designed their equipment. And, it's really telling, because if you put a lot of loving work into a Panther that survives 10 hours in combat, it just, but you could have 2 or 3 Panthers instead of the one if you just, spammed out functional but basic, equipment in a similar way. Would have been better. But they were also like working for better armored cars and whatnot to be able to function in desert environments. But by the time they get into production and they do things that delay getting the better stuff into production. They're lost North Africa kind of thing, and they're fighting on their home front. I'm thinking sort of the Puma. It's really set up for some deserty type environments that are just no longer needed, and they could have gotten a similar but a little more simplistic vehicle into production probably a year earlier. But no, we need really good stuff. What do we just do? Jungle unit training. I think that is here, maybe. Yes, we're going to stop that. Hello, Eric. Yes, exactly, better. It's the expense of making them. Well, saving fast. Okay, good thing we're saving this. This is what I would love to do a multiplayer game, but I just don't know if we have enough stability. Yeah, we've got a save here, so we're just going to let this go. And let this go. Well, I know. You can see here the clock is ticking around. We only had action. Very true. Okay, good. Yeah, Germany. How do I put this? As Butter's saying, machine tools, people to operate the machine tools, because these are not automated systems. They may be systems that require less and less skilled workers, meaning, and now, okay. A lot of German, this is again my understanding from reading some books on German industry. They had a lot of highly skilled workers, and probably up there with the best in the world at the time. I don't know that Britain is just starting to get good. Britain's quality tolerances had been pretty poor for a long time. And that's partly because they were some of the first to get into industrialization. And which are still called fitters today. I know I sort of told this story that when some British mechanic went into like a U.S. armor's or some sort of mechanics depot for the Americans, it took them a few moments to realize what was missing. There were no vices sitting around, on benches. You don't just sit them. There are just no vices there. Well, that's because you don't need a vice in an American automobile repair shop. There's almost no need for it, because when the carburetor or some other part needs to be replaced, you just go get another one and you bolt it on. It just works. Where in a British one is you get the carburetor, set it on there. Oh, well, we've got to file this flat and get it fitted. They were called fitters, and they're still in the Army, still called fitters. You would fit the parts together, and it wasn't just putting the parts together and bolting it like we think in the modern day. It was actually, get the file out or the sandpaper or whatever and fit the parts together. And this was on standard like Bedford trucks and whatever. So their quality it gets worse during the war, because they set up a good system to disperse manufacturing. So so whether it's bomb, you bomb one factory, well, if you have a bunch of smaller factories also making the different parts, you can still just assemble them in another building or something. So so it's the disperse. Oh, and as well as getting smaller smaller production facilities doing something useful instead of just having a few big facilities. So that's good, but their tolerances of manufacture are poor. And so you have this fitting system. So Britain's manufacturing isn't quite up to German or American standards. American standards are very good. They don't do as overly designed things as well as Germany does, and they also don't. And this is getting to the point that I'm heading there. They don't change things very much. Where the Germans would constantly tinker and do minor changes to vehicles, and would like, oh yeah, we've got these 20 tanks ready to go. Oh, they think you need to put on a different hatch on that tank. Okay, well, let's take all these 20 tanks back into the factory and put the new hatch on them. They would do things like that in Germany. Now, like I say, they had a lot of high quality machinists, and they sort of needed it because they'd have their machine tool set up to stamp out belt buckles. Okay, a stamping machine that stamps out belt buckles. And let's just presume, oh, well, we want to stamp out shoulder buckles or something, for another part of the gear. Okay, well, let's take that machine, take off the parts that stamp together. Boy, my brain isn't working very well. And so they would and then refit it to use that machine for a different thing for a while. And that's so the Germans would constantly is overstating it maybe, but periodically taking a machine and if it's a milling machine that's cutting on something, well, we've just made 50 of these items, now we'll make 50 of a different item, that's all for whatever production. And so they would need to have qualified personnel that would do the adjustments and then make sure that it's right and correct and would fit the right model things to have good quality there and do that. So you needed a lot of trained personnel to do it. Where the Americans would set it up so that once that machine was making a widget, whatever that widget is, they would turn that machine on and make that very same widget until they decided they had absolutely no more need to ever make that again. And then at that point, would they stop production there. So that would allow you to just, if it's a drill press, you just have the object that you want drilled. You'd slide it into the place that would have brackets so that you know that it's held in the right thing, and then someone just lower the arm and it would just drill through. You wouldn't have to know how to not that they wouldn't, but you wouldn't even have to know how to change the drill bit or anything, because all you're doing is sliding the metal piece and go next, and you just have I'll say it this way, trained monkeys, operating these machines. Now, the person who set the machine up, to make sure that when you put the metal piece in and it's going to be in the right place, make sure they have the right drill bit, and all of this stuff, that's a higher skill level. And of course, they would train people up, but this allowed America to bring in non-industrial workers into industries, bring in women workers. And I sort of hesitated on trained monkey because I don't want to sound like women or whatever are incapable. No, they're totally capable, but it's just a simplistic kind of work. You could get going really easy. So you'd have foremen that would manage the shop and set the things up, but once they're set up, they would just train minimally how to do this process in this factory, how to do it safely. And when you get the rack, you move the rack from a trolley comes over with a bunch of the parts on it, you drill them, you set them on the trolley, this comes on your left, you set them on the right, and somebody takes it away from and it's just that sort of process. And you would take it to the next person to drill the next hole, instead of having the person say drill 50 parts, each drill one hole in all of them, and then reset it up and drill a different hole in the same 50 parts. No, you just take it to the next machine. So having and setting up a vast amount of industrial machines, whether it's stamping tools or cutting tools or drilling tools or whatever, you would have to constantly refit stuff for Germany. So they just did not have the industrial capacity to fight an all-comers world war. It just would not do. And they intellectually couldn't get to the idea of simplification and manufacture to make up for it. They just couldn't get there. The MG is rare examples of making gun easier. Yes, absolutely. It is one of the few, where the MG42 is specifically designed to use simpler parts. There are others. The MP40 uses much more stamped parts than the MP38. Both are, and I'm not the best on gun internal parts, but basically they're the same operating system. It's just going from going to fewer milled pieces to more stamped pieces. Now at the very end, the Germans are making basically a direct copy of the Sten gun, except for the magazine goes straight down instead of off to the side. They're getting that in sort of late war emergency, but it is a rare thing that they're going simpler. They're normally going, and towards the end, because what becomes the SETME and eventually the G3 HK91 rifle, that is designed in the waning day, I think in 1945, set up to use a lot more stamped parts. So they're starting to get the emergency, but way too late to even delay the outcome of the war. German workers were mostly soldiers. After the campaign in France, Hitler demobilized half the army just before the war with the USSR. Germany had lots of trained reservists. I don't know where you're getting that from. We'll take a look at you can either look at my old series or when we get to playing GGA, both the Wehrkrest system, the Home Army, the Ersatz Army, however you want to say it. It did have a reservist system. Now, they got to where they did the keep reserves or keep trained people in their right jobs. several armies during the period had problems with calling up people that early on they needed for the manufacturing. Hello, Beam Slam. Okay, guys, what we're gonna do, because we just had a we're gonna end this episode. Not okay. Right. Okay, we're gonna reboot this here. So I'm going to quit, and we're gonna reboot here. Just a moment. Don't worry. Okay.